This is a story almost as old as time, as the U.S. Navy gets compared to various other navies, especially the British, where they essentially are the same in their own ways, but they also have a lot of very different traditions than we do. Now, a lot of this is stemmed from a video I made only a couple years ago talking about a British ship which actually came out with like this grand opening of their bar that they were going to be allowed to have on the ship, and it was notoriously known that British sailors were able to drink while they were on board in comparison to American service members, where it is a completely dry experience, and a lot of people have some crazy thoughts about that. But this is a topic I believe has not gotten a lot of steam, where I think it might change the culture, maybe in a good way, but Reddit has taken to this, and I think this is something we could get on board with. So on the Navy Reddit, it says, are you responsible enough to allow drinking alcohol on board? And this person, the OP says, and it's Jim Batron 85, says, I've had this discussion in the wardroom. It's an officer, by the way, and, you know, more tame, not talking about enlisted deviants with hatchets. It says, but I'm interested to hear your take on the topic. Other navies around the world allow for a sailor to have a daily drink underway when that sailor is off going and there is ample time before standing their next watch. If the Navy were to implement a policy where sailors who are of age can go to a designated area, perhaps the mess decks, you know, that's probably most likely because that's where people congregate and would kind of decompress, and have their CAC scan, be given one beer or a glass of wine to enjoy in that designated space, do you think we'd be able to handle that? And if such a system was ever put into action, would this lessen ARIs or binge drinking while sailors are making port calls? This is because a lot of people know that as American sailors hit ports, they just go on a binge and rage out and get in a ton of trouble. And he says, I know that there will always be someone trying to go around the system / have nefarious motives, etc. There are always stories of people abusing the system for those rare times we do have a beer day at sea. But if alcohol became something less demonized, quotations, do you think that behavior would subside? I think that's what you are. I have to commend you. You're looking at this from a very logical standpoint of how we could break down, you know, this all idea of all or nothing. And you also accept that this would be logistically a nightmare, as how many people, for example, on an aircraft carrier are working day shift, night shift, swing shifts, all these departments, if they're in no flight status, not a flight status. How do you break this down? And I think a lot of the U.S. Navy has probably decided to just say no. And I don't know if this is any reference to Nancy Reagan's idea of the war on drugs, but that was a thing that was out there. Now, I'm not the only one that has thoughts on this, and the comments on Reddit do have some strategic thoughts on how this could be implemented. ET2 Surface Warfare, love your little name here, and thanks for your service. You are a warrior. Says, I can't imagine it would ever be allowed underway for the various reasons stated, but I could see something where the quotations bar would open once the ship enters port, so to speak. That would also allow the command and control overindulge to a degree, as most sailors I knew are pretty lazy. They would be just fine with 4 beers on the pier and be to bed by 10, as they would with 12 in town and back by 2. You don't need a cab, you don't really need a buddy, etc. Import pop-up beer gardens would probably do wonders, assuming the ship ever sees land. And that is so true from people that were deploying during the COVID pandemic and things like that. They were bringing things to the pier, having alcohol served there in order to try and make it a little bit better. And I do agree that if you could do that, it'd be awesome. However, you know, a lot of people want to leave the ship anyway and get away from it, but I have also seen all you D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, warriors and dwellers and video gamers and whatever else, where for some reason you just cannot get off the ship and not get out of your Stockholm Syndrome. So I understand this is kind of already what is happening, but, you know, I think how could we get to this being a typical thing? You know, is one beer, could we say one beer be the thing that's going to get you going? We already have policies in place that would say if this person seems drunk, you are able to do a medical alcohol test via blood with the commanding officer's approval, and that chain of command testing and all that kind of stuff. So, and I don't know the capabilities of that of every ship and every platform, but that could be a possibility as well. M007368 says, we would do beer on the pier every port we could to keep sailors from going out in town to get swifty. The issue is people who purposely go out to get smashed, and this was usually the best case because all drama was kept at the command. As for underwear, I don't ever see it happening. Instead of drinking to cope, how about we just work toward making life underway suck less? Done plenty of cross decks on quotations wet navies like France, the United Kingdom, and Canada before they went dry in dry navies. The demeanor on the ship is 100% related to the service and not the presence or lack of alcohol. But it was interesting when I was in aviation to see bars in the various squadrons. What he's saying is there are squadrons all across the U.S. military that have these like cool little areas where they can drink and the squadron will get together, and it's this whole camaraderie and morale boost thing, and it does show that that can kind of exist in a big boy adult world. And for some reason it doesn't translate to ships. I don't know why that might be. Is there a different type of person that's doing that? I have no idea. But I understand what he's saying is how can we make the ship life suck less? And that is something that I think is important because over the years we've done troop drawdown, and then it's like now we're asking for 1 million people back again, and it's like these people probably were doing more with less, and they're probably overworked, overstressed, not able to take care of themselves. I've even heard of people that were on carriers not even taking showers because they were like, what's the point of me taking a shower if I'm going to just get up, do the same exact job again, and I don't care about anybody that I'm around. And that's a very real sentiment that I've seen. So the morale can really change as this, I believe, is just alcohol is like a just basic coping mechanism that many junior service members deal with, or young adults deal with as they just try and deal with day in, day out life of what could just be a crappy job. So let's see some more comments real quick. Tired Guy 18 says, maybe a bi-weekly beer Friday to keep morale up, limit of 4 per sailor, keep it confined to domestics and berthings, no hard liquor, champagne on New Year's and Christmas, which I will have to say, good, commendable, like during holidays, right? But then you got to have master at arms. They're going to pat people down if they can actually do that. Is that illegal? And then you go into all these other things. I'm thinking of all of the bureaucracy that's going to be in this, where like you guys and I know if you've been in the military for even a couple seconds that any level of like, 4 beers, 2 beers, 1 beer, like there's going to be like some signage and there's going to be something. It's like by the time you drink the beer, it's like 3-4 hours later before you would get the next one in order to like try and make you never be able to have 2 back to back to back, and so I look at this and it's just so typical military that we're dealing with this. And I do wonder if we could ever adopt something like this. Maybe we could test it on a smaller ship such as the failed littoral combat ships that are somehow still kicking and going, as I know people are loving to hate on those things. But maybe that could be a good test. Minesweepers, the pirate navy, you know what I'm talking about? Represent you minemen. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you think this could ever be a thing? Because I think this conversation could be up there, in my opinion, with beards. And that is something I rarely say because I think beards are the next thing to happen. But as always, let me know what you guys think. Hit me up over on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, or down in the comments below if you like topics like this or you want me to cover other topics like it. As always, I love you guys. I'll see you next time.